Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gaming Dehne. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than my normal stuff. Yes, Meteor Falk is actually not technically a part of Fake Go. I know that it was just kind of something I kind of put out there because I was running behind on a few things and testing a few things. Other point of the matter, that aside, this channel is also meant to be focused on Weiss Schwarz as well. So today we're doing a deck profile on a Sayaka, Madoka, Homura deck. Now this deck is more meant to be a kind of fun deck than it is supposed to be competitive, so my choices may not seem optimal, as you can probably look right here, just like the first card, it's automatically showing like it's a vanilla. So, but there's reasons why you run this card. So we're gonna go ahead and get straight into this build. Please try to hold back on trying to taunt me too much for the way I play my deck. It is meant more for fun than it is to play at something like a regionals or an actual tournament. That being said, we go ahead and get into the first four cards of the deck. The first four cards of the deck is a vanilla, as you saw, and it's a 4-of for a good reason. Now, why run 4 of vanilla? Well, there's a reason why I also didn't say the name first. The reason why I run this vanilla is because of one reason, and one reason only. It is a Sayaka and Madoka card. It is called Sayaka and Madoka in Winter Days. Now, this card is a vanilla 3K, so it's useful for the principle of just it's a nice little small body. It's not big. It's not going to get over a lot of things, sure, but that's not the point. That's not the reason you run it. The reason you run it is because the card's name, Sayaka, part counts for Sayaka's wish, which requires a Sayaka to be tributed, essentially, or retired, whatever you want to call it. Point of the matter, you use it for the fodder of the Sayaka's wish, because it chooses a Sayaka on the field, removes it from play, by putting it into your waiting room, not actually removed from memory. Point of the matter, it goes in the waiting room, and then you take the top card of your deck, and then you put it back to your hand. So getting around anti-heal crap. So that's what the wish is useful for by using this instead of like something that may be useful on your board. The other part of the card is used for a card called, well, we'll save that actually for later. But I want to go ahead and make mention that the other part of the name has Madoka in it. That is important. It is a part of your level 0 game. That is why that is important. Now, granted, this is a lot of heavy combo that you need to rely on having certain cards in hand, la 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 la. Cool. It's just an idea. I like it. It's cute. Have fun with it. That being said, we go on to our next card, which we're going to go on to the next blue card, which is Memories of a Witch, Sayaka. I run 3 of it. Now, as for why 3, not 4, not 2, 3 just feels like a just right number to see it just enough that I can use it for its effect, but not too much that I clutter my hand with it. Now, the whole reason behind this card is because of its effect. Is Brainstorm. Pay 1, mill the top 4 of your deck, and then you go ahead, if you reveal the climax, search your deck. Then once you search your deck, you ditch a card. So, I would also like to note, it says up to. So it is important that you don't have to search, but you do have to ditch. The ditch is mandatory. So it is best to go ahead and search anyways. But the main point of this card is not even just the search. It's a nice effect to have, and it's very useful. But at the same time, let's say you're getting kind of screwed on climaxes, and then you know a bunch of them are in your stock. Well, this card is essentially your go-to card to get through your deck. You have, and this because it's a green-blue deck, it's very stock generation heavy. So you have a lot of stock you could go through to just go ahead and say, I'm going to build through my deck and just get these cards back into my deck. So I could get all these climaxes that are in my hand or in my stock out, put them in my waiting room, refresh my deck. There you go. I have my climaxes back. So I went from 3 climaxes in my deck to like maybe 7 back or something like that, as an example. So with that being said, let's go on to the next card. This card, though, I would highly suggest using in almost any Madoka deck. That being said, we go on to the next card. We're starting on the green cards. Next card is called Homura Cares for Madoka. Now, why this card? Well, the main reason is despite the fact that it's a 2K, its effect allows it to say if you have another Madoka, but that's right, another Madoka on the field, meaning herself or the vanilla, essentially, as an option, she comes at 35. Now, that's not amazing for level 0, but considering the current meta, how it's going, but at the same time, a 35 is still a relatively big number for a level 0. It still makes use, but that's why it's only a 2 of, though. It's honestly best to have it as a 2 of, just because it does rely on having a Madoka on the field. So it's not your biggest play, but it is an option to say, I have something that's at least decent to deal with board presence at level 0. So you use it for that reason, as a 2 of. Now, granted, you could use it a little bit more as a 3, like a 3 of, but my personal build, I'm just running it as a 2 of. Now, as to why I'm just running that as a 2 of, is because I run 3 of Madoka from the New World. Now, Madoka from the New World is a 4K if you have 2 or less stock. So, that's your big body of the game. Well, at least for your level 0 game, his point of the matter, it's a body. But the main reason for early game is you run it as a 3 of is because if you have 2 or less stock, it gets plus 15. So it's a 4K, but you also don't want to run a C at too much because this build doesn't rely on Devil Homura. Now, granted, that's also a silly build anyways, but point of the matter. So 3 of this card, not too much, not too little, just right to see it when you need it. Now we go on to a card that you may or may not question, depending on how you look at it, and the reason why also I don't run the Searcher of Mommies. Now, this card is called Real Memories Homura. Now this card, honestly, is more of a tech choice at this point, because its effect literally says, I'm going to take one to make sure I read it word for word, is auto, pay 1, put the top card of your deck into clock. When this card is placed onto stage from your hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card of your clock. Note that word, card, not character, card, in your clock, and return it to hand. And put the top card of your deck into clock. So now you essentially have, what you do with that effect then is essentially you've clocked yourself for an extra damage that you may not need. Now, that also is useful to note, because you can essentially do it to clock yourself and then level up. Now, is that the ideal situation? No, not really, because then you're doing the effect for no reason. However, the main reason you use it, and the reason why it's a 2 of, is because it grabs a card. So a climax, a event, something I can't normally search. There you go. That is why I run this. Now, granted, it's a 2 of. Only 2. Because it hurts yourself. So it's a kind of a last-ditch effort to get something. But if it's something really important, that card is there to help you get the cards out of your clock into your hand that you really need. Now, the last level 0 that I have is honestly not the best card, but it's also an assist, so that's why it's mainly there. Pula Magi Holy Quintet Homura is the last card of the deck. Now, why this card? Well, first off, it's a global 5, so all magic characters get plus 5. Her other effect is an act ability. That act ability is pay 1, choose one of your magic characters, and give it plus 1,000. Till the end of turn, it's not permanent, obviously. Point of the matter, though, it is important to note. This is a 3 of, because honestly, I have not much more room, because that's honestly 17 zeros now. Just so you're aware, this is 17 zeros. I don't like going beyond that. Now, that is the actual highest I will ever go in a deck for zeros. Granted, there might be another deck that's a different story on that. I'm looking at you, Cube. But honestly, just 3 of it is nice. It's not my main focus for assist, but the first part I get that's helpful. So we go into that. So with that, we look at the level 0 game with 7 blues and 10 greens. So in total, 17 level 0s. Now we go into level 1 game. Level 1 game, the first card I go is Mild Autumn Days Sayaka. It is a level 1/0 that is a shifter. And what shift does is when you're at a certain level, in this case, level 1 or higher, I mean, you can do it at higher levels too, you can, at the beginning of your main phase, take it out of your clock, move it to your hand, then you have to put a blue card, it specifically has to be blue, and put it into your clock. Now, this is useful to have because it's just like, okay, I'm at level 1 now, but I don't really have a gameplay that I want to use at level 1. But I have color requirements. Okay, cool. How do I do this? Oh, look, this is in my clock. There you go. I have a play now. So that's also just kind of like, it's a filter hand thing at that point. It's not really so much like getting climaxes out of hand, but you can do that technically, I think. Let me double check. Wording. Yeah, it says blue card. So you can use technically a climax to put in there, but it has to be blue. So that's important to know. But the other reason why you run this card is it's not entirely a huge body, but it's also a 0 cost for its effect. It gets +5 for every other magic character on the field. Now that makes it permanently, essentially, 6k without backup in the, well, I shouldn't say backup, without assist in the back row. That's important to note because assist in the back row can make it a 7k. And that's why these cards make it global instead of having to do it in front of, so you don't have 6 5s on the side and then a 7 on the center. You can just have 7 across the board. And also, the other reason why you run this is because it gives more power to something that may need it. Granted, it's for stock. But also, we also want to note, this is not the main card of the level 1 game. This is not the main focus at all. But we run 3 of that because it is nice to have. One of my favorite cards, though, to run, and Madoka Magica, especially for running blue, ever, is Magical Girls Tea Party Sayaka. Run as a 3 of, so it's not too much, but it's not too little. Now, granted, some people might think this card is not good. Some people might think this card is amazing. I'm one of those people that think it personally is amazing. This card has, for its first effect, Clock Encore. So it's a 1/6k body that has Clock Encore. So it stays on the field when you need it to stay on the field. And it's just like, okay, I'm still at level 1. I want to keep field. Clock Encore to keep it on the field instead of wasting my hand. The other thing about this card, and the reason why I love it, is because with this deck, I get climax screwed a lot. I will get so many climaxes to my hand. It's ridiculous. However, that is why, and I repeat, that is why I run this card. This card is my lifesaver. Its effect is an act ability that you could ditch a climax from your hand to activate the effect. Now, if this card is on the field, you ditch a climax, it gets plus 1,000 power, and then the ability, when your opponent reverses, draw a card. So, and since it's not limited on how many times you could do it, oh look, I had 4 climaxes in my hand. Let me ditch those and put them into my waiting room. And then, oh, I'm plus 4,000 now. I'm a 10k at level 1. Come at me. Now, granted, there's still some bodies that could be that big at level 1. I know. And it also does require reversing. I get it. I'm looking at you, Attack on Titan. You could screw off. Anyways, I don't want to go into that. Moving on, the reason why this card is so good to me is honestly it allows you to filter your hand. You redraw whatever you threw away and get cards back. More than likely, if you have that many climaxes in hand, you're not drawing another climax. Most likely, at least. If you draw more climaxes, I mean, it sucks, but at the same time, you also kind of want to look for certain climaxes because you have climax combos. But we're going to go into the first climax combo in a little bit after we go through the next cards, which is green. But 3 of Magical Girl Tea Party, Sayaka. personal suggestion, one of my favorite cards in the deck. Now, this card is an actual trial deck card, and I also believe it is in the booster pack. Yeah, it is in the booster as well. And it is called Law of the Cycle. 3 of it. 1/1 event. Now, it's a very basic card on the principle that you pay 1. If you have green in your level or in your clock, search your deck for a magic character. This is very important because this sets up so many plays. It sets up so much field. It sets up so many ideas for this deck. This card honestly could be ran as a 4 of, but I'd rather not run too many events. I'd rather not have less cards to be able to filter out of my deck if I need to search for like the Brainstormer example. So I want to run it as a 3 of so I can see it often enough through drawing, but not too little. It's one of those key balance things. It's a very good event that's useful, but it's a very basic event at the same time. So it's honestly best to keep in mind that it is a 1-cost event that searches your deck for a single magic character. But that also once again sets up plays. And we go into one of the cards that sets up plays for, which honestly is called Madoka Thinking of Homura. Now, this card, straight up a 4 of. There's no arguing it. If you're running green, I wouldn't even try to argue it. It is literally one of your best cards of green. Now, granted, there are some other good cards in green. Would I suggest them? Sure. But at the same time, will I use them? Once again, this deck is not meant to be competitive. This deck is fun. This deck is meant to be silly. But at the same time, it is also built to go with ideas that I think are adorable. So the first effect is literally says this card cannot side attack. It's a continuous ability saying it cannot side attack. It's a 1/0 5k. Now, if that was on something like, oh, I don't know, a 7k, a 6/5, something like that, that'd be a little bit different. It's not that big of a deal. It'd still be a big body. However, we now go into its effect. And to make sure I read it word for word, I'm going to take the card real quick. Read it word for word. And its effect, the second effect, is auto. When this card attacks, if a card named Guide to Salvation is in your climax area until the end of turn, this card gets plus 35 power, 3500, so you know. And the following ability. Auto. When this battle opponent becomes reverse, you may put the top card of your deck into stock. Why is that important? It is a green deck. Green is all about stock acceleration. It is its biggest thing to do. It is also very important to note that it also opens up more plays. So having these options just helps so much. Having 3 of this card on the board with a climax combo will just generate so much stock acceleration. It's ridiculous. Because on attack, you get your 1 stock, and then you also get the other stock if you reverse a character. So you essentially get 2 stock per attack. So at the end of the turn, you've gotten 6 stock, not including other effects. That's a lot of stock. That's enough to play 3 level 3s, a couple level 2s, depending on which ones. But the point of the matter is, this card alone sets up pretty much all your plays for the rest of the game. And it is a 4 of for that very simple reason. So then, now we've gone over the level 1s. There's 6 blues and 7 greens. Now, we keep on going over more green than blue. That's fine, honestly. Because honestly, green has a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, for the point of the matter, it essentially adds consistency. That's not quite the words I'm looking for, but that's fine. I just want to make this a little more personal, just so you're aware that this may not be the best, but hey, let's go ahead and go though into level 2s. Now, the level 2 game is where you're going to really start questioning me. And here's why. The first card, Sayaka's Wish. 2 of. That's right. Let it sink in for a moment. 2 of. I'm taking this moment to be silent because I was trying to let you sink it in. I'm sure you're yelling at me by now. Oh, I'm sure of it. I'm like 90% sure of it too. However, I cannot fit more. I couldn't even if I tried. Why can't I fit more? Because this card is such a good card. It's so mandatory to run in a blue deck that you're questioning my sanity and why I'm only running 2 instead of 4. Now, a smart Weiss player, if they know I'm playing blue and I am playing Madoka Magica, they know I'm running this card. So they're going to be smart about how they attack. So, let's go over the fact though. This card literally says it's a counter. Just so you're aware, counter events require to have the color required in the clock or the level. So that's important to note. That being said, this character card, or this chooses a character card with Sayaka in its name, goes from there, puts it into the waiting room. Then you take the top card of your clock and put it into your hand. You don't take another damage. You don't clock the top card of your deck, and then this card goes to memory. It's deck then. It gets around anti-heal, and it also adds a card to your hand when you just took a card from your hand and your field. So technically, it's a -1. Well, no, actually, because it puts it in memory, it's actually a neutral. It's an actual 0. Because it deck thins you, so you have less cards to worry about in your deck. It gets your card from the top of your deck, or your clock, excuse me, and puts it into your hand. And then finally, from all that, it also retires a card from your field. Now, granted, this is also important to note because, okay, kick the clockers need to reverse the character typically, keyword, to kick the clock. So if you know you can't get around it, Sayaka's Wish helps with that. If you're looking for other reasons to just go ahead and say, okay, I want to go ahead and take direct damage here and a different like example, they're attacking over here off to the left, but you want to go ahead and have this attack as a direct attack instead. You can use Sayaka's Wish to get around that as well. Why would you take direct attack? Well, honestly, bigger numbers being seen for number damage being checked means more chances for a climax. Granted, why do I have to explain this? North America meta, my friends. North America meta, where 2 souls are a thing. Anyways, so 2 of this card. Honestly, I would highly suggest anyone playing blue run 4 of it. Like, legitimately run 4, minimum 3. Why don't I? Because we're now going into the other cards in my deck. The other card in my deck that I really like to have, and why I run it as a 3. So, the next card is my role, Sayaka. Now you're starting to question me even more. Why this card? Once again, because I'm running green. Why am I not running Homura's, the level 2/2 that is a +15 to all characters in front of it? Why am I not running that? Well, we're going to go into that card next. But I also want to let you know, I'm running only 7 level 2s. That's right. So let that sink in for a moment. Do the math. I've shown you 2 cards already for level 2, and now I'm showing you another 3 right now. That's right, I'm only running 2 of the Homuras. Now, why this card? So the Homura's level 2 is legitimately there to help me change into the level 3. So when I no longer have those on the field, guess what I'm going to rely on next? My role is Sayaka. It is a level assister. So for level 3s, it's a 15k assist. Well, 1500 I should say, not 15k. Excuse me. I mispronounced words. Details. Anyways, moving on. But why this card? The other effect is the reason why. And this is why the stock generation is so important in this deck. It is the whole reason why I have to run this card. Because, let's be honest, you're not always going to be seeing Law of the Cycle. Law of the Cycle is an event. You cannot search it. You cannot set up plays with it. as much as you could like another card that you can search, and then search with that card. So that's why this. It is a pay to rest itself. Search your deck for a magic character, add it to your hand. Now, that's expensive. I will admit it. However, it is totally worth it if you can set up the play like you want. And that is why at the level 1 game, you have to have the 4-0 Madokas. Because that card is so important. And it sets up allowing plays with this card. It just allows big bodies for your level 3 game, and it allows you to have the capability to search if you need it. So 3 of this card, just so I can see it, and also have it set up for place. Next card, as I've already gone over a little bit, The Only Hope, Homura. 2 of. Now, why did I decide to go with 2 of this instead of like 3? Well, it's a shifter first off. I can go ahead and get it shifted out of my clock if I need to. So it has a little more chance of being usable. So I can see it a little more often. It's a searchable card. It's a shifter. So I have multiple options on how to get it out. However, I should probably run a little bit more of it. Probably what you're thinking, it's just the right number for me. It's honestly just the right number for me. Because it is a 2 cost. Now, its first effect as assist is all characters in front of this get plus 15. That's really big. Especially if 2 of them in the back row. That's 3,000. Yeah, it's quite a big number. Its second effect is change. Just to make sure I read the exact effect word for word. All you have to do for the change effect is put this card to your waiting room at the beginning of your draw step. Just so you note, your draw step. You may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card named For Madoka's Sake, Homura in your waiting room and put it on the stage in the position this card was in. So, this card is literally your change target for your level 3 game. It's important to note. However, there's a lot of anti-change cards too. So it's also important to note that as well. So sometimes you don't want to change. So it's just nice to have it in the back row, so it has a big number. The Sayakas are there to help back that up in case I do use the change effect. It's all a matter of just how do you want to do it? How do you want to do this card's effect? This card, honestly, if I was doing a build differently, I probably would run it as a 3-up at minimum. Just so I could see it a little bit more often. But at the same time, you have to remember it is a 2 cost. It does have shift. So it's a little expensive, but it also has more capabilities of being seen than someone else. So that, 2 of for this card. Now that's where you start questioning my sanity and start probably watching this video. Okay, if you made it this far, I congratulate you. Thank you very much. I thank you for believing in me. But now let's start showing off a little bit more tech. And then maybe a little more reasons on why you question my sanity even more. The next card is called When Guided by the Law of the Cycle, Sayaka. 1 of. Why 1 of? Well, honestly, I don't need more. If I ever feel like I'm actually going to set up the play, it will come to me by itself because I'll search it out to make sure I have it. It is a magic character, so I can search it at almost any time of the game. So, why this is important. Its first effect is the one that says, if you have 6 or more climaxes in your waiting room, this gets minus level on hand. The second effect allows it to make big bodies. At the beginning of your opponent's draw step, choose one of your cards on your field. It gets plus 4,000 for the rest of your opponent's turn. So, it makes big bodies. It allows cards to stay on the field that are necessary and makes it a little easier to get around. Now, the final effect is kind of just a nice tech to have. It's not necessary because you're already at level 3. You're probably at the end of the game regardless of what you're doing. So, there's no point in really actually just worrying about the last effect, but you might as well have it known just so you have it. And I will read it word for word. Sorry if this card disappears from the field. Its effect. Pay 1. Auto. When this attacks, if Sayaka's true identity is in your climax area, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 2 magic characters, reveal them to your opponent, and put them into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Now, that's kind of nice, especially since you could play it technically at level 2. However, it is still early play, meaning anti-change is a thing. It is still worth noting though, because it can help you set up for your next play if you need to. So this is one of those cards that honestly could allow you to go ahead and say, I can play this at level 2 and go from there. Now this is also the reason why I haven't said the actual numbers for my actual level 2 game, which was 5 blue and then 2 greens. Because this card could also be played at level 2. So I count it technically towards level 2, but I also count it towards level 3. So for the purpose of this video, it is listed as a level 3 count. On to the next card. And this card is honestly questionable to people, but at the same time, it literally is maybe to say, I have just enough power to say no. Madoka Kamine. I may have mispronounced that, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. But this card. You're probably questioning me. It's a trial deck card. Why? Why run it? Well, it's a 10k base. That's nice to have. Now, why is that important? Not all level 3s are 10ks. Granted, it also has this first effect. I'm going to go ahead and grab this so I can read all effects to you. Is that if the number of other magic characters you have is 3 or more, this gets plus 1,000 power. Okay, cute. It's 11k. That's not too bad. That's not what I played though. I'll go ahead and read the third effect next, because I want to save the best for last. Act, pay 1. This card gets plus 2,000 on a turn. Okay, cool. If I put stock into it, it's a 13. Not too bad. It's decent size. Okay. But here's the real reason. Auto, when this card is placed on stage from your hand, all of your characters, get plus 2,000 until the end of turn. That's huge. That is important. Why that's important? Because the kick the clock in this deck requires to reverse your opponent. It is so important to have that extra power. It's ridiculous. There have been several times this card has legitimately saved me. It said, I have the kick the clock capability and get around your backup that I know that you have. It is really good to have. It is a 2-of because it's a level 3. It's not the best card in the deck, but it also is the little tech for the exact purpose of the level 3 game. For kick the clock purposes. It literally just says, I made my kick the clocks even bigger. So if you play 2 of these, everything in the front row gets plus 4k. Now, we move on to the final character card, which is, for Madoka's sake, Homura. This card is essentially your endgame. This, honestly, the card to go to. It is honestly your only card to go to, actually, in this deck. So, the kick the clock is the last effect. So let's go ahead and go over the first effects. The first effect, and I'm going to go ahead once again, grab, so I make sure I read it exact for word. When this card is placed on stage from your hand or by change, draw up to 2 cards. Choose a card in your hand, put it into your waiting room. That is useful because it's a climax combo to do the kick the clock. So if you don't have the climax combo in your hand, it is also an extra card to grab the card you need. And because this is done, the change is done at the beginning of your draw step, you have not drawn yet. So you have a chance to draw on that climax and then ditch a card from your hand. And then continue into your draw, and if you choose to, you can clock as well to have another draw too. So you have a lot of opportunities to get that climax into your hand. Its second effect is when this card is placed from your hand, choose one of your standing magic characters and rest it. Granted, you use it for choose one of your back row. I mean, you could choose one of your front row if you want to, but it just depends on how you have the situation. That being said, it's kind of a counterbalance to just say, okay, this is a decent sized card. It's pretty decent. It's not amazing, but at the same time. But the one reason why it is amazing is its final effect. Auto. When this card attacks, if a card named Truth Behind the Barrier is in your climax area, until end of turn, this gets plus 2,000 at the following ability. When this card's battle opponent becomes reverse, you may put that character into your opponent's clock. That is your end game. 2 of it, so you don't have too much, not too little. You want now, honestly, you probably should be running 3 of it, maybe even 4, depends on how you play your deck. But because because of the text with this, I also go for this as a 2 of, so it goes in hand with a Madoka and just combos really big numbers. Because this card in itself becomes a 13 because of the climax and its own effect. And then play the Madoka, it becomes a 15. There you go. So now we go into the final numbers of the level 3 game, which is 1 blue and 4 green, which is only 5 cards, meaning we have now 8 climaxes left. The first climax I'm going to go ahead and do is the blue ones, which is only Sayaka's Druid Deity. Now, this is a 1k1 gate that allows you to essentially salvage a climax back from your waiting room into your hand. It is a 2 of because it is also the climax combo for the level 3. I only need it as a 2 of because I'm using it to grab back whatever climax I need. Specifically, the level 1 game climax combo. Now granted, you can use it for the level 3 game as well, if necessary, but honestly, we're almost better off just not running this. But I also do this to keep numbers not completely even, but at least more balanced, so I can have blue access also, and my lower levels as well, and my higher levels obviously good. But this card, honestly, 2 of, no need for more. Then we go into the next card, and a reason why you probably question my sanity even more again. Truth Behind the Barrier. This is the first green climax I'm revealing, because the next one is the more important one in some ways. I'll explain. Obviously, I don't really need to explain at this point because I've already gone over the level 1 game and level 3 game. Granted, this is your end game, but I only run 2 of it because it's a gold bar. It's a 1k1 gold bar, meaning it goes to your hand, and then you can take the top card of your deck and blind stock it. So, because it's a gold bar, it has a fairly good chance of coming to your hand regardless of what you do. Now, granted, that's why I also run the gates. Now, why don't I run 4 of this? Because it's my end game. Well, the reason I don't is because I don't want to see a million of these come to my hand, because Gold Bar and I have a bad reputation for each other. I see a Gold Bar get checked and it comes to my hand, I have no way to get it out. It's part of the reason why I run the Sayakas, true, but at the same time, I don't always see that Sayaka, so I don't need this card always in my hand. But it is definitely good to have in your hand because it is your end game. So 2 of this because it's a gold bar. And then you also have the Sayaka's True Identity. And then finally, we go into the last climax, last card in the deck, Guide to Salvation. Now, not all of these are triple rare, just so you're aware. See, that's my triple rare. It's so pretty. Anyways, that being said, Guide to Salvation. It is a 2 soul trigger icon, so not the best to check, but at the same time, it could be nice if you don't have to worry about any climaxes your opponent deck. They could be out. You never know. Anyways, its effect though is when this card is placed, take a green card from your waiting room and put it into your stock. Everything on your field gets +1 soul. Well, center stage, but point of the matter, everything in your center stage gets +1 soul. This is your climax combo for your level 1 game, and it is not a gold bar, so it's not as easy to see. This is definite 4 of, because your level 1 game is your setup for the whole game. Your level 3 game is nice and it's your end game and the way you end your game, but at the same time, if you don't have the stock to back that play up, it's pointless anyways. So Guide to Salvation at a 4 of to help get more stock, so that whole play I was talking about having 3 of them on the field earlier, you were at 2 stock. Well, this actually puts you to 3 stock and makes it to where you have actually 9 stock if all the Madokas reverse a character. So there you go. That is my deck. thank you all very much for enjoying this joining this video. I hope you did, at least. I mean, I'm presuming at this point. I'm sorry if I am. But I do want to say thank you for watching it nonetheless. Thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you for joining me in the Gaming Den.